Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Tonight's webinar is all about growth. So this is our teacher to leader. So we're looking at building a team and scaling. So many teachers, they explore franchising or setting up their own business because they probably want a bit of flexibility, a better kind of work-life balance. But for some, that first step into business becomes something much bigger. It becomes leadership in a new form. And as we know, teachers are already very good leaders. But what happens when those leadership skills are redirected into building your own team? And tonight we are super lucky to be joined by Catherine and Hannah, two former teachers who have done exactly that. They started as franchisees, delivering sessions themselves. Then they made the leap into hiring staff, expanding territories, and leading businesses rather than just running them. So we're going to explore the mindset shifts, practical decisions, risks, fears, rewards, all of that involved in scaling a business. So whether you want a franchise or not, this session is about something a lot bigger. And firstly, I would like to dive into Hannah and Catherine's backstories about teaching and how they found their ideal franchise. So Hannah, would you like to go first and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. I have always worked in secondary education, and fortunately, a lot of the schools that I've taught in have had a prep school either attached to it or local feeder primary schools where we've delivered Spanish and French lessons. So I actually came into teaching a bit later on. I had another career before teaching, and before children, teaching was my life, and I would eat, breathe, sleep teaching, and I was really creative, and I loved that side of teaching that you could, when I first started, be really creative, and there was that time to spend enriching the classroom experience for the kids. And then I guess as changes happen within education and things become curriculum needs and demands become tighter, I just kind of felt like I was losing control a bit of what I was able to teach. And then after having children, that just became even more restricted because there's different demands pulling you in different ways. And I just kind of got to the point where I felt like I wasn't doing the best job that I could do. What I wanted to achieve in the classroom, I couldn't do that anymore. And it was just a very frustrating experience that my needs weren't being met, the kids' needs weren't being met. And we were also really struggling with a child that was that did not sleep. So we were like increasingly sleep deprived, which didn't help to the matter at all. So yeah, I think after 12 years in the classroom, I went back part-time, which ended up being spent my days off was working still to catch up on things that I wasn't doing in school. And in that time, I fortunately found Kidslingo, the franchise that I have now. And yeah, it's been a blessing in disguise.
Brilliant. Well, that's good to hear. And it absolutely is a change of pace, isn't it? A change of lifestyle. And sometimes, yeah, having children's not great with teaching, is it? The drop-offs and the pickups, and like you say, sleep deprived and teaching is kind of a form of torture, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, the workload's intense as it is already. So when we were trying to do sleep training in the evening, it was probably like 8 or 9 o'clock before I'd then be able to sit down and start my work, either preparing things, getting back to emails, to parents, colleagues. And it's just consistently being on that hamster wheel, isn't it? That isn't good for anybody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And Catherine, love to hear about your backstory as well with teaching and how you found Nature Makers.
Yeah, so quite similar to Hannah in a lot of ways. I worked in secondary. I taught for 13 years and I was head of geography across a multi-academy trust for 10 of those. And yeah, I absolutely loved it, lived, breathed it, was totally happy to be in the school building 7 till 7 and then do more work when I got home and just kind of give it my all. Had a child who has already made a little appearance today. And all of a sudden, I just felt like I couldn't I couldn't give my kind of work babies what they needed at the same time as giving my own actual baby what he needed, and also having any kind of balance or sleep or and I found it incredibly stressful. And I looked at a few options. I tried going back part-time for a while, and it was better in some days and worse in others. And then I was presented with a great opportunity to move back up north home to be near my family. And I kind of had well, it's now or never moment. If I'm going to do something different, I have essentially the perfect excuse, doesn't feel like quite the right word, the opportunity, like the perfect opportunity of, it's going to be really difficult to get myself a part-time head of geography job, so I can't really do the same thing at the other end of the country. Now is my chance to have a look around and see what I actually want to do with my life, and Nature Makers is my midlife crisis. So there we go.
Brilliant. That's nice to hear. And sometimes it is that sort of, complete change, isn't it, that we need, and it does enrich our lives in different ways. And I just wondered, with both of you, like, what made you pick those franchises that you went into? So Catherine, Nature Makers, what stood out to you about that as being a really good fit for you as an individual?
I think there were a few things. I really wanted something where I worked with young people and their families. I really wanted something that was kind of big on like social and environmental justice and like cared about the world. And I stumbled across Nature Makers and just thought, oh, that really does sound like me. I love being outside. This is kind of all the great bits of teaching geography. Out of the classroom, endless kind of possibilities. It kind of taps into a lot of my passions. I spend all my weekends walking and hunting for sea glass on the beach and wandering around and having a lovely time. And I found nature brilliant for my mental health as well. And I kind of liked the well-being kind of mindfulness slant that Nature Makers has. One of the other things I really liked about it was how versatile it is, because one of my favorite things in teaching was kind of designing a curriculum and was designing a curriculum and making sure that can you go to daddy, please? Thanks. Night.
It's a bad time for webinars, isn't it? And children.
Go to daddy. Thank you. Right. And making sure that I had like all this wonderful creativity, and I would hate to have a job where I couldn't do that anymore and I had to just do exactly what somebody else told me to. And I really liked that as part of Nature Makers, I still get to be creative and design my sessions, but also there's kind of a well-known structure that was already there to sort of ease me into the business. And I think I probably wouldn't have been brave enough to go it alone without a franchise. Especially in the headspace I was at the time. I'd kind of got myself in this place where I didn't really feel like I was good at any of my jobs anymore. I didn't feel like I was being a great mom or a great teacher, and I didn't feel like I could do it as well as I could before. And it really knocked my confidence. And having that kind of like backup of a franchise that's got stuff in place, but also somewhere where I can be creative and take it in different directions, like that combination, as well as just nature and creativity being things that I really love anyway, that just kind of made it perfect.
Yeah, sounds like a perfect fit for you. And Hannah, what about Kidslingo then? How did you stumble across it? Did you know about them before, or
no, I didn't actually. I was going to baby classes with my daughter at the time, and I live in South Manchester, so there's a lot going on for babies, and you're kind of spoilt for choice. And as I was going and trying out all these different classes, I thought, oh, nobody's doing anything like this in Spanish. I can see a gap in the market here. So I was like, right, that's what I'm going to do. So as I was doing a little bit of market research, I came across Kidslingo. And the same thing as you were saying, Catherine, like you could do this alone, but it requires a lot of investment. And if you don't have a family or anything else that you want to dedicate your time to, having that franchise support behind you is so valuable, because you have the resources, you have the advice from other people that have been doing this. You've got that whole sounding board of other people behind you to kind of give you that lift off. So you've got the marketing experience of other people. As a teacher, you've got a wealth of knowledge, you've got a wealth of experience. You could kind of, you've got lots of fingers in different pies that perhaps at first, when you come out of teaching, you're kind of like, well, where do I start? What do I do first? How do I do this? And having a franchise behind you, I think is great, because they can help you lift off and really kind of get you going. Having the name behind you as well really helps going into schools and provide. I teach PPA classes as well, so I think a lot of schools look at if you've got the curriculum documentation ready, and if you're going to do that alone, that's a lot of work. And yeah, I think I'm a very creative person as well, so having the structure there means that I can then take the bits that I want and employ my favourite things to do. So in all of my after school clubs, I will always do a craft activity, which is my favourite part. And I think now there's such an emphasis on learning through play that, you know, you get to do all of the things that you couldn't necessarily do before in the classroom.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Right, we're going to dig a bit deeper into this idea about building a team and scaling your businesses. So, Catherine, I'd like to find out from you about the moment you realised that you just didn't want to run sessions, you wanted to build something a bit bigger. What was that moment, and what did it feel like?
Really scary. So, yeah, it was one of those moments where, I don't know. I'd kind of always thought that I would work for myself, and I had no intention of employing anybody else when I took on Nature Makers. And then after about probably 8 months in the job, all of a sudden, I'd got so many inquiries for work that I couldn't physically fit them in one person's timetable. And also pick my child up from school, which was kind of the whole point of doing this in the first place. So I was like, oh, I need another person. I need to learn how to do this. So that was kind of the start of it. And in one way, it was really scary, because I'd never done that from a kind of employer's perspective. Even though everyone who works for me freelancers, it's still a much more kind of employer-employee relationship than it was when I was running my big team of 14 geographers across 3 trusts. So, but then when I thought about it, I did have like the team leadership and like people development experience, but it was just a totally different context. So, and I think a lot of the time teachers do have those skills there. It was just a little bit of a shock to me, because I hadn't initially considered that this was a thing. And I'd got lots of requests for things like after school clubs, stuff at weekends, loads of holiday clubs where people wanted to drop off children. So obviously then, to kind of make sure that you maintain legal ratios and things, you need, and keep everyone safe, you need extra staff. So it was at that point where I was like, right, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to go and find some people that would like to freelance. So I did, and now I have 8.
You have 8 now. Wow. Oh, that sounds like such an organic growth of the business as well, that, you know,
yeah.
I mean, it's very different, isn't it? If you're going into a franchise or a business and you're thinking, right, I'm just going to scale this as big as I can. But for you, it was a bit more of a natural way of doing things. So
yeah, and I think as well, like one of the things, it's kind of happened slowly as well. So I took on one person, and then I took on another, and then I took on a couple more. And I think trying to grow it in a way that means that you don't kind of lose the quality, so that you give each person who's working for you enough time and enough training and enough attention, and everybody understands exactly what they need to be doing and when, but also letting them have that creativity. I think it's something that I think you probably have to do gradually. Like I would, if I went back to the start and did all this again, there's no way I would suddenly like, I need 8 freelancers, please. No, you'd still do it. I'd still do it kind of one at a time, and like gradually ramp up based on whatever the needs are at the time.
Yeah. And Hannah, did you find the same thing? Sorry, be interested to hear.
Yeah, I initially went in and was just doing the baby classes, and then I had so many people inquiring about after school clubs, but because my daughter was only 18 months, that just after school clubs weren't on my radar, even though having all of the coaching and other people said, oh yeah, my main area of business is after school clubs. It was like, are you doing an after school club here? Will you do after school clubs? And I thought, well, if this is where the market is, that's where I'll go. And so I took on one person. I've got a team of 3 working for me now. And it just kind of grows. I didn't want to lose control. It was really quite hard passing classes on, because you build such a relationship with the kids as well. I guess if you've ever had PGC mentors, you've kind of been there in the classroom with them, you've trained them, and then passing it on, it's quite difficult, because sometimes they've got a really good way of doing a task, and I've learned a lot from them, but sometimes you're like, why would you do it like that? Like, that's not how I do it. But you have to let them do it how they want to do it.
A bit like when you return to teaching after maternity leave. It's this person's done a great job for you, and then there's kind of a bit like, oh well, I want them back now. I want all my students back, but at the same time you kind of appreciate what they've done and how they've done it in a different way. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So another question for you, Hannah. I would like to know about the qualities in individuals that you look for when you're recruiting freelancers or people to run your sessions. What sort of qualities are you looking for, and have you actually hired any teachers?
I have currently a brilliant TA who works for me that I found through going into the school to run the after school club, and I could hear that she had a Spanish accent in the corridor, and I was just like, oh, are you a Spanish speaker? She was like, yeah. And then started speaking in Spanish. And I was like, I don't suppose you want to come and work for me. I think it happened as organically as that. Like I needed somebody to run an after school club. So she now runs the after school club at the school where she TAs at in the daytime. So she literally goes straight from classroom to after school club twice a week. So it's brilliant. So that's perfect. And I know already that the school's gone through a really rigorous, recruitment process with her. She is absolutely fantastic. And the kids know her, so I was super duper lucky in finding her that way.
She wasn't even looking for it then.
No, she wasn't looking for it. She was coached. She has multiple bits and bobs that she does after schools and at weekends. So she also coaches gymnastics at the weekends. So I was like, brilliant.
You got very lucky there.
Yeah. But the other qualities that are really important for me, I think, is making sure that they are that they're creative, that they're not just following the lesson plan. That the kids, in particular, after a long day of school, the session needs to be focused on them. And you can't teach to a lesson plan, can you? As much as you want to plan a session, especially after a long day of school, kids need to be moving. So it's really important that they don't take themselves seriously, that they can have a laugh, that they can enjoy the session and be a kid, that they can move around and just, enjoy the session as much as the kids, really. So that's probably the most important thing. I think as well, time management is super important, that we have freelancers, they're self-employed, and if their other commitments don't work, that has been really difficult to negotiate sometimes. It's a tricky one, because most of my business is after school clubs, and I want to pick up my children certain days of the week, and if they've got young kids, they have the same problems, really. So a lot of the time, the people that do work for me have either got older children or no children. So it's making sure that we, from day one, have the time, that they can manage their time well with their commitments.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And Catherine, as a teacher, you're the one who's used to be delivering all the sessions. How did it feel to kind of just take that step back and let someone else represent your brand and work with the people that you'd sort of nurtured?
I think in some ways it's a little bit, you're always a little bit nervous because you want them to do a really good job of it. But actually sitting back and watching someone else deliver a session, I just kind of felt really proud of what we'd created, and that sounds a bit silly, but kind of proud of myself for finding people that are really passionate about it and can do it really well, and also like making them excited enough to want to do it really well. And I love actually watching my freelance teachers do sessions or even deliver parts of sessions at holiday clubs. So a lot of, because I learn loads from them. So a lot of people that I employ, it's kind of different for different parts of the business. So usually teaching assistants don't get paid for the holidays. So often you get these really wonderfully qualified people who've got tons of experience with kids in school, wonderful like behavior management strategies, don't take themselves too seriously, really creative, loads of experience with kids with SEND. And then they're desperate for stuff to do in the holidays, which is exactly when we have loads of our work. So that's kind of perfect for me. And I've learned so much in terms of just like, I don't like calling it soft skills because there's some of the stuff that's really important, but just like watching different people interact with children and deal with situations. I think you can learn that so much from that yourself. So I find that side of it really valuable as well. It's just really interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And Hannah, I would like to know about what kind of systems did you put in place before you could scale? What was sort of there that you could lean upon, obviously with the brand as well?
I think making sure that we had enough classes to fill their needs, really. Obviously, one of my tutors can only do 2 sessions after school. So those 2 sessions is all that she needs. But if you have somebody that's coming and they need a Tuesday filling, it's making sure that you can fill their timetable for them. Otherwise, you know, they could be doing something else. I think that our nature of work is great in that we can offer so many different opportunities for classes in the local community. So we've got nursery classes and nursery schools. There's always a gap during the day where there's a kind of nap time. So can we fill a lunch club? Can we do an after school club? Yeah, so I guess that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. Good to know. And then Catherine, I wanted to know about expanding territories. So what does that actually involve? And you've done this, haven't you? You've expanded into 2 territories, is that right?
Sort of. So
Yeah.
I'm up in the northeast, and most franchises up here will have kind of a North Tyneside one and a Newcastle one and a Northumberland one. And my original territory spanned kind of a corner of all those 3 around the border. And a lot of Northumberland doesn't have very many people in it, which means that if you do it on population, you can end up with, if you create a franchise area on population, you can end up with part of your franchise area being really quite far away from where you are. So in that sense, I have quite a split, kind of a split area. So I've got people that I know want to work in just North Tyneside, and then the people that are further up Northumberland have people who are based closer to there, and I deliberately recruited people that were further up that way so that you don't want to be traveling an hour or whatever to somebody's after school club. You want it to be down the road at your local school to make it worth it financially for the teacher and for us. And that's worked really nicely.
Yeah.
But I did originally just focus on the area close to me. So I focused on North Tyneside first until I'd got that up and running. I'd got reviews, I'd got kind of testimonials, people from services things like the council, the libraries, schools, like nursery consortiums and things that would kind of vouch for us and then use that as a stepping stone to go that little bit further afield. And a lot of those councils and libraries and kind of care services and things tend to work across like local authority areas anyway, and also things like nurseries and other like children's activity businesses. A lot of them, if they choose to expand, they'll obviously go to the next closest area. So quite often people I was working with had either expanded in the same way or wanted to expand in the same way. So having those kind of allies to do it has been really useful.
That's really interesting. And I hadn't really thought about that as well, about the territory being quite spread out. And I guess for you, Hannah, it's different, isn't it? Because you've got quite a big population where you are. So is it hard to, or does that make it easier to sort of juggle people around for different classes and things? Or do people ask a lot more to sort of shift to different sessions?
No, it's actually really easy because it's so densely populated and there's so many schools in the area, and we're quite lucky that there's a lot of schools that belong to the same trust. So that's worked really well with us, a bit similar to what you're saying, Kathleen, that if we've already got a club in one of the schools in the trust and we want to build and grow, we can easily say, well, 2 of your other schools in the trust are, users for PPA or users for after school clubs, lunch clubs. We've already got a foot in the door, really, and it is really helpful. And other after school providers that we work with as well, they're great at helping us kind of get a foot in the door in other schools or the nurseries.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think, Catherine, as well, Nature Makers, you go right up to adults as well, don't you? You're not sort of restricted to schools and nurseries, sort of age group.
So originally it's grown quite a lot in the almost 4 years I've been part of it. So we started with parent and toddler classes and nurseries, but then it kind of organically grew in lots of ways. So to some extent, our own children got a bit older and went to school. And then a lot of people, we always say, like, graduated from our parent and toddler classes, but didn't want to stop coming. So we started looking at things in holidays, after school clubs, things like that. A few more franchisees came on board who had got teaching as a background. So we used like our experience and skill to develop a kind of primary school age curriculum. My background was secondary, and particularly special needs secondary was a lot of my experience. So we started doing a lot of alternative provision and home, like either home or flexi education, things with older children. And then previously, before I was a teacher, so going way back, I worked in the care sector with elderly people. So I did a bit of additional training on using nature therapeutically in older age and particularly in dementia care. So now we do lots of work in care homes as well. And then lots of parents just came and said, I'd love to have a go at this, ideally with a nice cup of coffee or a glass of wine and without my child. Can you do something for us? So we did. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Really nice. Yeah, thank you. And Hannah, I was going to ask you about like your work-life impact. You obviously said a little bit about being in the school system and how that impacted you. Obviously your child's a little bit older now, but how has your work-life balance better or changed since taking on Kidslingo, and how's it changed again since taking on extra staff?
I feel like I've got my life back again. I felt that pretty soon afterwards, that I could actually enjoy. It's not that I didn't enjoy my teaching. It's just that there was so much extra that came with it, that I was constantly thinking at weekends, at nighttime, like I could not switch off. Whereas I can a lot more. Obviously, there's always things that you're thinking about because it's your business, and things are ticking over all the time. But it's a different kind of. It's because I want to. It's because I want to be thinking about it rather than I have to be thinking about it. And I can definitely switch off. Like weekends, I've got full control of how I manage my workload. So I think having other members of the team on board now I've got a great team. There have been people that have been part of the team beforehand that I haven't always been as confident with. So that's always, been at the back of my mind, like, is this going to happen? Or that, that there can always be little niggles, but now I can really quite confidently say, touch wood, that the team that I have working for me are absolutely amazing. So I don't really feel that is having to impact my work-life balance that much. Like, they are so skilled in what they do and the environments that they create for the kids, that it's great, because I don't feel like I have to worry about them. I know that they're doing such a good job, and when we get together and share ideas, or when I see a lot, because the area that I live in, I go to the parks with my kids and bump into other kids as well. I'm like, oh, we did this with Paula, or we did this with Hannah. And yeah, it's lovely. And seeing the social media from the school as well, from the PPA classes of what they're doing. Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. I saw Catherine nodding. Do you feel the same then, that it's had a positive impact on your work-life balance?
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
Like, I think, yeah, just works. I have weekends again. I get to the school holidays and I don't instantly get a migraine on day one of the summer holiday, which used to be it was like a 10-year tradition, as the stress lifted. And yeah, I've just got control over when I work. So, and also I can help other people control when they work as well. So I've got people who really want to do evenings, so I give them evenings. People who need to fill a gap in their holiday because they need a regular income through the 6 weeks holidays, and I can give them 4 or 5 days work a week for however long they want. And that's good for them and good for me, because I get to see my own child. And yeah, it is totally life-changing. And yeah, I wouldn't go back, and that's not because I didn't like it. I wasn't like running screaming from teaching at all. I loved it, and I loved it to the point where I was like, what am I going to do instead that will give me what this gives me, but also means that I can be with my own family? But I've definitely found it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is wonderful, and I think that is it, isn't it? And the fact that you did dedicate that time to teaching, both of you did, and then those skills can be built on. And we have another webinar all about that as well, which I think is the important thing. It's it grounds you, doesn't it, teaching? And it really does make you think about that wider community that you're servicing as well, which works really well if you're doing a sort of business within the community, or within schools, or within nurseries. It really does ground you quite well. Okay, brilliant. So I would like to ask you, Catherine, about the sort of financial risk, if that's okay. Did it feel a bit scary, sort of, teaching is such a regular income, isn't it? And a guaranteed job. Did it feel financially a little bit scary? And how did you kind of process that to make sure that your business could really kind of thrive?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely scary, because I went from a career with a nice regular income that turns up when you want it to, a pension that kind of happens without you realizing, and there's really quite good. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. And I'd got lots of experience of kind of managing budgets from being head of department, but not in the same kind of way. And before I even started, I did lots of market research, made lots of spreadsheets about kind of forward planning. And I was really grateful to the tools that I was given by my franchisor to help me kind of plan how to make, like, how much work would I need each month to kind of make ends meet, if you know what I mean. And I still use those tools now. But actually, once you get started, it's a lot easier than you think. So I told myself, right, I'm going to give myself 2 years. And after 2 years, I need to be at this place. And if not, I'm going back. But it turned out fine. I was at that place after 1 year.
Oh, well done.
I'm better off than I was teaching. Mm-hmm. I do earn slightly less, but I don't pay for any childcare Whereas when I was in the school building from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, that's a lot of childcare. So I think what I would say to someone who's worrying about it is not just look at it as a salary number, but also look at the other stuff as well. So like factor in childcare, factor in travel, factor in like, do you actually, like the school term's 39 weeks a year, but then the 2 years before I quit teaching, I logged every single hour I worked every day, and it worked out that I had 4 days off a year if you added up your hours and divided it by 9 to 5. So actually, yeah, which is ridiculous. And so, but now I have like 5 weeks off like a normal person, and pick up my child from school. So it's not just what you're gaining financially to factor in, but also even the financial bit is not just your take-home salary, because it, like, if you factor in what you're spending on other things like childcare and travel, both of those things are so much less, because you've kind of got a lot more control over when you work and how you work.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm not sure if I've answered your question. Sorry.
No, I think that does make sense, and I definitely found that when I was teaching, half my salary was going to childcare. I had 3 children in 3 different establishments, and obviously you have to start early, so you have to get them. Then you've got a childminder beforehand and all sorts, and then the after school clubs that they didn't want to go to, but they had to go because those were the only ones that were available. And yeah, it was a lot of money. So actually it's better to be present for your children, isn't it? Running your own business. And I guess both of you could take your children with you, couldn't you, to all of these sessions? That's a nice thing about some of the franchises. Not all of them allow you to do that, but particularly your ones did, didn't they?
Mine did, yeah. I actually find it quite tricky taking him with me. It was fine when he was younger, but now there's definitely a bit of a, oh, I've got to share mummy, kind of thing. So now if I bring him, I also bring someone else that's his grown up. So sometimes
that's a good idea.
Or what have you. Things like holiday clubs are a bit different. But I also think that if that can be a really good kind of selling point, attraction point for a franchise, but also think about how that might change as well, because the older your child gets, the less they're going to want to do the same class 4 times in the same week, for example. So I think, yes, it's great in some ways, and it gives you that kind of extra level of flexibility. But in my experience, it's not a silver bullet solution. So I don't know what Hannah would say, but
I'd agree. And also your timings kind of shift, don't they, with your child? So when I started, Ines was with a childminder whose hours were 8:30 till 5:30, which meant that I could totally dominate after school clubs if I wanted to. But obviously now that she's in year 1, the timings of the day are different, and she doesn't want to go to after school clubs every different night. I don't want to put her in after school clubs every night of the week. She did come to, when I was at her school, the after school club, but I was horrified after the first session. I came home and I said to my husband, guess who was the worst behaved child in the session? Ours.
I mean, you just show up to photobomb the meeting, but it sends them a bit doolally to see mummy doing something else. It has an odd effect on them.
I didn't enjoy the session. I didn't feel like I could relax. She will come to some of the holiday clubs and she enjoys helping, which is great. But I've put a tutor in her school now, which works really well.
That is good to know, actually. That is really interesting, because I just see on a when I look at the franchises, oh yes, this one you can take your child to, this one you can't, blah blah blah, and just see it as kind of black and white like that. So hearing the reality is quite interesting. So thank you both for that.
I do think it's something to explore though, because particularly if you're running baby classes, like I've got a really good friend who has a yoga franchise, and her baby goes to the baby classes, and that works like a dream. But it probably won't work when baby's in year 1 like mine is. So it's definitely something to factor in.
Brilliant. Okay, so I would like to ask you then, just both of you actually, if you had any advice to teachers who are quite ambitious, that they want to set up a business or set up a franchise and grow and scale, and that's kind of their mission. What advice would you give them? What's your kind of top tips?
I think before you think about growing and scaling, I think you need to make sure that you've got a good sense of what you're doing, what you can achieve, and what the market's kind of like out there. Because I'm sure there are some that people who run franchises that will straight away take somebody on straight away. But I think before you do that, you need to get a good feel of what you want to do, because some of the classes you might want to pass on to somebody else, some of the classes you might want to take control of. It depends where you are going to make the most money out of this session, where you're going to get more fulfillment out of this session. I think that would be my thing to consider.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, I'd hugely agree with that. And then I think once you've got to a point where you're really clear on what you're doing, why your business is different, what kind of niche you're filling, and you're feeling really confident with it, I think then it's time to sit down and think, well, in a year, well, maybe even further than that, in 5 years, what do I want it to be like? And not just like, what do I want in the business, but what do I want my life to look like? So I sat down when Frank was 2.5 and was like, well, by the time he's in school, I want to not be running the after school clubs so that I can pick him up. And then you kind of have to kind of backwards plan to make that happen. And so I think kind of look quite far into the future, and then just like you would building a curriculum or designing like progression through a year in school, plan backwards to where you want to be. And well, I'm still doing that. It's just the time gets a bit further ahead every time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both very good points. And I would like to kind of know about your ideas for the future. Are you just going to sort of stay where you are and do what you're doing, or have you sort of got this idea that actually now you could take on a few more staff and you could grow a little bit more? Or what are your ambitions for the future? And it could be 5 years. It doesn't have to be tomorrow.
Do you want to?
No,
yeah,
you go.
Sorry.
I think I've always been a little bit cautious and grown steadily, I guess, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Like, I have had my fingers burnt with a couple of tutors, and for me, trust has a massive impact on me now. So I've got to make sure that I am taking on somebody that I can fully trust before I give them any more classes, because at the end of the day, it's my reputation. I see these people quite a lot, and I work with these schools, and I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to lose my relationship with these schools as we kind of expand as a franchise into different areas by doing enrichment days. And there's so many different things that I think, I could, if I mess up by employing somebody else that isn't quite right, this could have quite a big impact on how I grow the business a bit more. So for me, I kind of feel like I'm in a situation where there is a lot of business out there that I could easily tap into, but I need to have the right person on board. And that it takes quite a lot of time to find that person, because, as I said before, they've got to have the right commitment time-wise. In my case, they have to have they have to be a Spanish speaker or have quite a high level of Spanish to be able to run the sessions. And yeah, I think I'm just a little bit cautious. So there's definitely business out there. It's just how ready you are to run with it.
Yeah. And I think that's nice, Hannah, as well. There's something quite sort of genuine about running a business slowly but with purpose, I think, and that's rewarding, isn't it, in itself, like as well as the money hopefully that comes in, but that is really rewarding, I think. So it's nice to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you. And Catherine, what about you? Have you got any plans and ambitions for the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, what Hannah said really resonates with me. I think in some ways I'm quite cautious as well. In a sense, it's a lot easier for me to find people who have the skills I need, because they don't need to be fluent in the language for a start. So that's quite useful.
Yeah.
But also, like, when I say I've got 8 franchisees, that sounds like loads, but I've got 4 that only really do holiday provision. And that's like developing a specific niche of the business. And then I've got 2 that have got loads of experience working with children with SEND, and they do kind of nurture groups and clubs in schools. And then 2 that are a bit more of a mixture. I'm kind of hoping, I think you have to sort of align what you want with what your freelancers want as well. So at the moment, I've got 2 people who have just gone back from maternity leave and want to gradually ramp up their hours over the next couple of years as their children get older and older. So I'm hoping that, like, if we build the relationships and the groundwork, I'll be able to gradually find more and more work and kind of fit in with them to do that. So I think, but it's a really kind of complicated juggling act, because in a sense you have this kind of chicken and egg situation of, well, you need work to keep your staff, but you need really good staff that will be able to take on the work to be able to commit to the work. And that is something that it takes a bit of getting your head around, and I still find that quite scary.
I guess one of the other things about growth as well, and you found that, Catherine, is that there are other areas that you can explore. So you've had your adult classes, you've had your experience in the care home. So there's different avenues that you can go down where you might not necessarily need to take on anybody else, but you can explore different ways of growing. We've just about a year ago launched Enrichment Days. So that's kind of a one-off day or a one-off half day where we could go into a school and offer like a package to a school. And that's the benefit of having the franchise behind you, that they'll have other ideas of how you can grow the business that might be something new that you haven't been doing beforehand, or it wasn't on your radar.
Yeah, I massively agree with everything. You said that way better than I did. Yes.
No, it's really good to hear. And I think what's nice as well is that you're both in a position now where anyone that works for Kidslingo or Nature Makers, if they want to grow their territory, they can come and have a really honest chat with you about how you did it and what worked for you. And that, they might have a different personality and they might want to, push things quicker, but you've got lived experience in that now. And also, being teachers, you're very good communicators, so you can articulate all of those nuances with running that business and scaling it in the ways that you have done. So yeah, I think it's really, really interesting to hear directly from former teachers and how you've grown your business. And everything just sounds so lovely and so organic. And obviously there are stresses with it as well. But I think you've both just found a niche that really fits you, haven't you, and your personalities. And then it's about sort of collecting a few more people with similar personalities and similar dedication to really grow your business in such a nurturing way. So yeah, thank you so much for giving up your time today. Really, really appreciate it. And it's been an eye-opener for me. It's good to know a little bit more detail about how you've done this and how your journey's been. Are you open for other people if they want to contact you to find out a bit more about Kidslingo franchises or Nature Maker franchise? Is that okay if I pop your details?
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I will do that then so people can get in contact and just learn a bit more. And I think, whether you want to go into franchising or you want to set up your own business, there's a lot you can learn from these 2 ladies and their experiences. So I hope teachers watching have really enjoyed it as much as I have. So thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you very much, Catherine. Absolutely brilliant. Loved having you on.